just received today. Brazil.
Everybody call you Shorty. Because
well, so my father's nickname was Shorty G, you know, because of his gang. And so my nickname in a sense was Little or Lil Shorty G. And so growing up, it was like, hey, what's up, Lil Shorty? And then I remember being in school and I was always the smallest anyways. And in my neighborhood, it's just like here, there's a bunch of Mohammeds, you know, so you have to think of different nicknames. In my neighborhood, there's a bunch of Jose's, or Jose. So everyone's like, oh, everyone Chepe or Paco, or everyone has a nickname. And for me, when I was a new kid in school, they're like, oh, he's the smallest one here. Let's call him Shorty. So I was like, Dad, I earned the nickname, you know. So, but no matter what, when I went out, my dad's number one rule was don't bring the cops home. People can't come to the house. Don't let people know your name. Don't let people know where you live. Even on school papers, I would write Shorty Torres instead of like Jose Torres or Jose Angel Torres. So naturally, I would always tell people Shorty if I met parents, if I met, you know, anyone, the business people, even still today. I'm like, oh, my name's Jose, but please call me Shorty. Like, this is what I want you to remember. Plus, I always make a joke about it. I'm very ADHD. I forget names. You know, even some of my teammates, I'm like, oh, I remember your name, but it's like at the tip of my tongue. For me, I try to think of a fun way to get you to remember my name. I was like, hey, my name's Shorty. Look at my height. You remembered easier. But it's a little harder when I said it to like John Dotson or Demetrius Johnson or like this tall. I'm like, man, just call me Jose. Just like, forget it. Those guys can call me Jose. But if you call me Jose, if you call me Jose or Jose, then it's more than likely business or the first time you're meeting me. Because you're just like, do I call him Shorty? Is it okay? Or if you call me Angel by my middle name, more than likely you knew me when I was a kid or you're my family. But Shorty's my whole life.
But being in US most of your time, have you started seeing that change where people are hesitant to call you Shorty?
Some people feel that they're being offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, no, I'm asking, please call me Shorty. This is what I prefer. Especially when you go to like different languages, they're like, what is Shorty? Or like, ¿qué es Shorty? I'm just like, it's Shorty. It's just, you know, chaparrito, small guy or whatever. And they find it disrespectful, you know, especially outside the U.S. I think outside the U.S., everyone's a little more honorable, a little more respectful. They want to follow morals and norms. So in the States, they're like, oh, Shorty, okay, Shorty. But in like Mexico or here or anywhere else, they're like, are you sure? Are you okay with that? I'm gonna call you Jose. It's like, sure, whatever makes you feel comfortable, but I appreciate Shorty.
And you couldn't get, so you're saying that you couldn't get your friends home as well? Like, so what was that? So what were you doing? Like,
all right. So we used to sell, it was in the States called a trap house. So we used to sell and make drugs inside the house, or at least my dad did before he passed away.
You lived in the same house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there was drugs in my house all the time when I was a kid. You know, primarily weed, before weed was legalized in the States, or at least in Illinois. And so even when I went to school, people were like, oh, you smoke weed? I was like, no, but I always smelled like weed because it was always in my house. My dad smoked to breathe. And he was always afraid that if I brought somebody into the house, that someone was going to steal the drugs, that someone did weed or whatever and was going to steal that, because he had past instances of his best friends breaking inside the house after being friends with them for however long. We're not home. They break inside the house and they steal the drugs. And then he has to pay for everything or all the consequences. So, and actually that ended up happening to me, to where I brought friends over, their friends came over, kind of took advantage of me, you know, manipulated me a little bit. And then they stole stuff from my brother and my dad at the time. And then, you know, I'm in trouble because I'm paying the consequences. And then, you know, I'm still a kid. They have to pay the actual money for it because drugs are expensive. This is why it's such a popular thing. But that was the biggest thing. And my dad used to beat the hell out of me. I always say no one's going to hit me as hard as my dad hit me. So I'm not ever worried about, you know, taking a shot in a fight. But when I was a kid, my dad would tell me, even though I was like the little rebel trying to bring kids over all the time, he goes, if you bring someone home and I catch them here, and he's like, I'm beating you up and I'm beating them up. He goes, they're in my house. I can do whatever I want. So let them know before they come in. If I find them, I'm whooping them. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then, you know, we're cocky teenagers. So I would still always, you know, bring in people. And one of my fun stories is I had a friend named Danny come over, and he was like the cool jock of my class. And one day I snuck into his house because it was kind of like the same rule. And his parents came home. He was like, I need you to hide. I'm like, okay, cool. And I hide in the guest bathroom. I'm waiting there for like 2 minutes. And he's like, hey, I'll be back in 10 minutes. I'll get you and we'll sneak out the back door. There was a window, a very small little bathroom window. And I was much smaller at the time, probably same size head, but much smaller. And I snuck out the window. And then 10 minutes later, I came, knocked on the front door. And Danny, opens up the door and he's like, I thought you were in the bathroom. I went to go get you. I was like, dude, I snuck out. Like I'm good. I don't want you in trouble. So next week he goes, I want to go to your house. I was like, this is the rule. He goes, I can beat your dad up. It doesn't. I'm not. We're all cocky teenagers. And so we go to my house, and my dad had this big clunky van that you would hear it by the time it pulled up to park, and my dog would also come downstairs because my dog was afraid of my dad. My dad was a very, very violent man. So my dog would come downstairs and like, oh, dad's home. It was like our warning. So every 5 minutes we're playing video games. I would go upstairs, look outside the front window to see if the van is there. And then I'd go back downstairs, keep on playing. Every 5 minutes go up. The time just slipped my mind and like 10, 20 minutes passed by. I hear, and we have the wooden steps, wooden floors. You hear like big pounding and we're just like, oh, and I'm smiling because I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna get beat up. Like this is just like I've already accepted it. I'm just like, oh, this is gonna suck again. And my friend, from being this mean, like macho kid, he's like, oh, dude, is that your dad? I'm just like, yeah, dude, we're both screwed. And he's just like, oh, dude, I don't like. He starts panicking. I was like, relax. How about this? I have my dog. I'm going to let her out. I'm going to keep the back door open. I'm going to leave every single door open. All you have to do is walk out. Give me 5 minutes, crawl up the stairs nice and light, and just walk out. And then I'll see you at your house in 20 minutes. Very easy. I go upstairs and I'm super lovey-dovey. I'm like over lovey-dovey. I'm like, hey, Dad, what's up? Oh my gosh, I've missed you. Oh, how was work? Can we play games later? Like I'm doing way too much. And my dad had a very stressful day and you could tell. So I'm like, hey, Dad, hey, trying to be very friendly. And he's just like, he looks at me, he's like, you know what? Yeah, I've had a bad day. It's been, and he starts confiding to me and he's like, you know what? I would love to play games with you. Yeah, I've missed you. And maybe less than 2 minutes. I told my friend 5 minutes, like trying to be very specific. 2 minutes, you hear him run up the stairs as hard as possible. It sounded like a grown man running up the stairs of wooden, stairs, like hard. And he closes every single door behind him. So it's smacking and smashing. And so it's noise, 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 noise. And the dogs bark and all that stuff. So now my dad knows someone is there. But while saying that, I was like, Dad, I love you. I can't wait to, and my dad's just like, yeah, I was just,
there we go.
And he looks at me, he's like, that was a good one. You almost had me. And then I got beat up. And then 20 minutes later, I still show up to my friend's house because my dad didn't care. He's like, you can go out. I never, in a sense, got grounded. I could do whatever I want. Right. As long as I didn't bring the cops home, that was the main rule. And so I go to my friend's house and I'm like limping there because my dad like would beat the hell out of me. And I'd go there and I was like, he's like, oh, dude, you made it. I was like, dude, I hate you. I'm like trying to strangle him like Homer Simpson and Bart Simpson because I'm like, this is your fault. I got beat up because of you. And yeah, I received all the consequences, but that was my childhood. So I always like to say, because I fought because of him, I could take a shot because of my father, because he would always play body shots with us. He'd make my brother, fight me. My brother is 8 years older than I am. And at the time, you're a teenager, he's an adult, or I'm a kid, he's a teenager. So that difference is huge. And then also my father. So automatically I had to learn how to fight and then also learn how to take a beating, both physically and mentally.
And when you say beating, hands.
Hands. I mean, my dad, he never typically hit us with stuff. It was always just him in the moment. When I was a kid, at least from what I was told, I was a cocaine, weed, and steroid baby. So my dad was always hyped up. And before he was a gang leader, he was a goon, meaning Rocky 1, he was the guy that collect the money. Okay. And like the enforcer. Right. And the enforcer is always a scary guy. And even though my father was my height, he was a very, think of me, but at light heavyweight, like same size, but just wide, So a very, very strong guy. So he was in a sense an enforcer or a goon, sense, oh, you need me to go beat this guy up? All right, cool. There's 20 people. I'm getting through all of them to get that guy. That was my father. So another reason why he wanted me to learn how to fight because of what he did. Because he knows the consequences. If you don't know how to fight, you're gonna get, doesn't matter how strong you are, you're gonna get beat up. So for me, it was always especially my brother had it way, way worse. Like when I say like I had a bad childhood, my brother just not at all anywhere close to mine. Like his was way worse. Like the beatings he took was very, very different. Another reason why my brother decided to rebel a lot more. I got the opportunity because of him. My dad kind of learned from his mistakes. And my brother was like, all right, yeah, maybe I shouldn't hit this guy as much. Maybe I should do a little bit more, try to be more sensitive. And as he got older, he got a little more sensitive, and we responded to it a lot better. But my brother definitely took a beating. I know he got hit with stuff. I was always just hit with hands and feet.
Wow. And you think that helped with making your bond with your brother much more stronger?
The biggest thing, because like I travel a lot, and I have bonds obviously with my mother, my father, my brother, and my family. My brother, because he was 8 years older, wanted to be like my father. For him, he's like, man, I want somebody younger than me. By the time I'm born 8 years later, he's like, yeah, I remember him from what he tells me, telling my mom, he's like, can I be his dad? Because he was afraid that my dad was gonna raise me like him, beat him and do the stuff. So he was always trying to protect me. And as a big brother, hopefully you go, hey man, I went left. That didn't work. So you should probably go right. And he was always telling me what to do or what I should do. Like I always wanted to be an artist like my father and my brother. My brother does graffiti and does all that stuff. And I remember trying to do graffiti on walls when I was a kid. He's like, no, don't be like me. And same thing with my father. My father wanted me to be tough and smart, more like a general instead of the goon and the pawn in the game. So it was a very different mindset that both my father and brother gave me when I was coming up. And then obviously my mother gave me that proper moral support. No, you're going to the gym. No, you're going here. My mom never let me quit. So it was a different perspective from all the family members.
And for you, like growing up in the streets of Chicago, right? I mean,
Yeah.
really there. When we say the streets of Chicago, you've seen, you've been living in a trap house, let's say, and with all the drugs around. So, how much did you know what was going on in the sense that you you know what it is now, but during the time while you were there, how involved were you in terms of knowing what's going on? So was it just that, okay, this is how it's happening, whatever is happening, I'm minding my business, I'm going to school, I'm going with friends, chilling out, doing my thing,
Yeah.
and doesn't matter what's happening, I'm not involved, I don't have to know much about it, but uh, you never know, you hear things as well, so
Well, two things. So Chicago is extremely segregated. So when you want Mexicans, you're gonna go to Pilsen or Little Village. You want Puerto Ricans, you're gonna go to Humboldt Park. You want Ukrainians or Russians, you're gonna go to Ukraine Village, and everyone kind of sticks together. That's just how communities were built in Chicago. Because naturally, you're gonna hang out with your people because you all relate, especially during immigration and people kind of coming on in. Mexicans decide to hang out with Mexicans, and they all kind of went to their pack. So literally, you drive through different neighborhoods. It goes in different colors, or there's nice buildings, there's poor buildings. Oh, it's this neighborhood, it's that neighborhood. So for my neighborhood, it's pretty much all Latino, and I was first generation. So a lot of the kids were either first generation or just entered the U.S. at 9, 10 years old. So you're now getting your foundation in the States, or your first generation, and your parents are still trying to get their footing in the States. Most of the time, they don't know how to make money. And the easiest way to really start off is drugs. So for me, it was a very normal thing, especially when I at least at the time, only hung out with people in my neighborhood, my brother, my father, my family members, all were involved or did drugs. So for me, it was a very normal thing. I'm like, oh, your dad's selling drugs too? Yeah, yeah. Or your dad's a gang member too? Oh, cool. It's normal. But then when I went to high school and I'm going to different neighborhoods and, it's different races that you see, white people, black people, this, that, you start to notice you're like, oh, or when I went to college, especially, I was like, oh, your dad didn't sell drugs? Oh, this is, you guys had a stable, job and family relationship. This is weird. Your parents never hit you? Oh, that was lucky, So like you start to figure stuff out. You're like, oh wow, that's when I really started to realize when I got into college of like, wow, my life was very, very different. In my neighborhood, it's very normal, but when you go to different neighborhoods and you start, mixing up with different people, you're like, oh wow, it was just me the entire time, at least at that part. So that that was I guess in a sense, the culture shock. When I went to college, my university was 2% Latinos, and I was part of that 2%. So it was pretty much white white guys from St. Louis, the city, or white farmers, or black guys from Chicago and black people from St. Louis. That's pretty much all it was. And then it was, a handful of Latinos here and there. So it was just like, oh, this is weird. It's like being the only Indian guy in, a white neighborhood. You're just like, okay, well, I feel kind of awkward here. This is, so for me, now, knowing more about drugs and other people, or knowing, the prices and this and that, and like the little, little things, it was just like, oh, you guys don't know this? Oh, my bad. So it was, it's just more of, you start to find out like, oh, but when you're a kid, you don't know. You just think everyone does this.
And what about the violence side of the things? Being in the gang world, as a gang leader, we hear this all the time. Drug business, gangs. There's a lot of violence in the neighborhood, And did you go through any of those? Did you witness any of those?
I definitely witnessed a lot of it. I never partook in a street fight. I mean, you already know me. I'm not a smack talker. I rather talk things out. I've never been a violent person, but it's also because I tried to be the complete opposite. And I thank my brother for that, and my mother, where it's like, you need to be different from what dad was. Because growing up, especially when you're on steroids, you're doing drugs and you hang out with very negative people. My father didn't have a father, and his mother, my grandmother, took him from the island of Puerto Rico, ditched the father, went to New York, and wouldn't say she was like a sex worker, but it's like she had guys pay for stuff. So it's like multiple guys would come on in, and if my dad was a bad kid, he'd get beat up by this guy. So that's all he learned was, this is how you maintain a kid, this is how you discipline a child, is you need to beat them. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's why dad beats us. It's not because he doesn't know it's right. Like, he doesn't know it's wrong. He just thinks this is the only thing he should do, because that's the only thing he was taught. It's like me when I finally went to college. I'm like, oh wow, I'm the only one that knows about drugs and this and that, or grew up in this neighborhood. So it's very different. So for me, I just was always naturally different, or I tried to be different. That's why I don't smoke. I've never been a fan of it. Don't smoke. I don't go into street fights. I'm usually the one talking it out. Which is actually funny, because in Chicago, like, I wear jewelry here and there, and sometimes I wear very bougie jewelry. I had one of my after parties, and I'll bring specific people out with me around your size. I'm like, hey, come on out. I'll pay for everything. You're my security for the night, but you're my friend. You're gonna take care of me. I want you to enjoy yourself too. Just make sure I can wear my jewelry and no one tries to pick on me or fight or whatever. I'm also a small guy. In Chicago, they'll pull out a gun. My brother's been stabbed 17 times, hit with the bat in the back of that. My brother's died twice, and that's a whole, different story. But and like, Sheikh Khalid even's like, the legend's back, because my brother literally never dies. He's like a cat. I'm pretty sure he only has like 2 lives. But when I went out, there's a commotion at a club, and I'm talking to my friend. I'm like, man, I hear the commotion, but I'm like, hey, where's my team? Like, just in case something pops off, I want to be surrounded.
Yeah.
And I go to see by the commotion, and you see all my guys talking, and like, they're talking smack very aggressively. And I'm like, what the hell? And they're like, you want to beat us up? Shorty, get him. And I'm like, what the God, hold my stuff. It's like, and I have to talk it out, but I'm just like, you guys are instigating the fight, So that's the hardest thing about Chicago is I understand why some people will always stay in the hood and will always stay in the neighborhood, because that's all they know. I was luckily and fortunate enough to meet Master Bob and do martial arts to where I was able to travel to different cities, states, and now countries, to where it's like, oh, this is their norm. My norm is very unnormal, So it's you learn different ethics and different moral codes, and or even just about different religions. You're like, oh, I can't do this. Oh wow, this is very, very different. United States, we don't care about anything. We're very open, and just whatever happens.
Yeah, crazy. And I see you around. You're traveling to a lot of states, training in a lot of places, but you mentioned that to me, but Chicago is still home.
Yeah, Chicago always been home for me. It's just one of those things that I'm happy to be able to leave, because my dad used to tell me, I don't know if you ever seen the very original like Bruce Lee biopic, where his father used to say there's a curse in China that you need to leave China. If you come back, you're gonna die here, And the movie, like, the demon kills him eventually. For me, that's kind of how my dad related it. He goes, leave Chicago, because if not, something's gonna happen. And in the process of me going to training camps, my brothers died twice. I've had a cousin that got shot 6 times. I have family members and friends that are in jail or have died from whether drug overdoses or being attacked. Um, and we had a guy named Ed Brown who used to fight in my team. So, you know, the money team, Floyd Mayweather.
Of
So
course.
TMT.
Yeah.
We call each other TBT, the broke team. So we take full pride in it because we're in a neighborhood where all of our gear is donated or our gym is donated. And, you know, it's a park district, but we're high level guys. Like we had guys who fought in the Mayweather Pacquiao card and fought Adrian Broner and all these high level guys. We just are a very small gym. And so we represent our neighborhood by saying we're broke because technically this is where we started. No matter how much money we have, we're always the broke team because this is where we at. And we had a guy named Ed Brown at the time. I believe it was 20-0, 16 KOs, about to make his Showtime boxing debut when it was at the hype of his career. And one Christmas, he got shot 4 times in the head, you know, during a drive-by. And this is just him hanging outside, doing usual stuff in the neighborhood. From what I know, nothing, you know, aggressive, just hanging out on the porch and, you know, get shot in the drive-by 4 times. And then he's in the hospital for 2, 3 days. And then the day after I visited him, you know, he ended up going to the other side. So it's like, man, what if he was able to go to California or Florida or for wherever else for a training camp and focus on his stuff instead of possibly having to stay in the same neighborhood and be around, you know, I wouldn't say negative people, but people that can put him in negative places. And, you know, for me, that was my father. As much as I loved being home, he's like, you get out of here. Like he would kick me out, you know, more mentally. He's like, get out, please. You need to get out. If not, you're not going to get what you need here. You know, there's a reason why everyone is still here.
Yeah.
And I started to learn that business wise. I wanted to invest in some people business wise with their businesses, help them as like a kickstart. And I'm like, oh, this is why you're always going to be in the neighborhood because of the mindset you have or from the little you know, because you haven't expanded your horizon outside of this. So it becomes, yeah, very, very difficult. So for me, Chicago's my home, but I also see, as I'm pretty sure you know, even dealing with KHK members, it's like we have so many talented people, but then a lot of people take it for granted or don't do certain things. And then years go by and they're like, damn, I should have done this. And it's like, dude, you were so talented. I think you could have been better than me or this and that. And they just, it's wasted potential. And I know for me, if I had the opportunity to do this, look how far I've gotten. I could just imagine I 100% mean that my brother is, and given he hasn't died, which is crazy. And that shows how like healthy and, you know, physically talented he is as well. But he was probably 2 to 3 times more physically talented than I am and probably even smarter still today. Like he can run faster than me. He can climb faster than me. He's been stabbed. He has wounds. He has scars, all that stuff. And he has missing muscles and he can still do more than me now. I can just imagine if he had the opportunity,
Yeah.
how far could he have gone? So for me, like with my foundation that I have, I help give back to kids, teens, and young adults because sometimes even after high school, people don't know what they want to do. Oh man, I can't go to college. This is not my thing. Fighting's a poor man's sport, and sometimes you know being able to give back a little bit or just given the opportunity to enter a gym might be able to change your life because you're in front of more positive role models who are from outside the neighborhood or have been outside the neighborhood and can teach you proper things. They might not have been anywhere special, but they're special enough to teach you something to get out. And that was for me with Master Bob and the team, Combat Dough. So I could just imagine if, you know, these people had different role models and different opportunities.
And that's something that motivates you with all that things that you've gone through in your upbringing. You want to give it back to the community, and I know that you've always been one of those people that keeps speaking about giving back to the community, and you've always been part of doing anything that's required, not just back home. I know that we've been traveling to a lot of countries together. You've been in Bahrain for a long time, and you've always been that person that stands up and says that, you know what, if there's anything, I want to be part of it. If there's something that I can give back, I want to add more value. And, you know, that's very inspiring for the young generation. Absolutely, what you said is something that we as KHK, we always look at and say that, you know, when we started KHK together, actually, you know, all of us, the idea of
We used to punch each other.
yeah, I can remember that. So, and I remember that time it was we didn't have Brave Combat Federation or anything at the time. It was way before that. But then the idea of starting Brave Combat Federation was because how can we do what we're doing for these 10 athletes or 15 athletes? How can we do that for tens and thousands of athletes around the world? You know, and what can we create to give back to them and give them that opportunity? And it's amazing being the champion of Brave, you're getting that opportunity. And you mentioned that to me as well, that in the future, although you travel around US, you want to go back and have a house in Chicago, and that's where you want to make your base and give back to the community. So currently, what are you doing in terms of what are the things that you're doing in terms of giving back to the community? I know that you have the foundation. If you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, hopefully, my main goal at the end of my career, because I'm not a big fan of fighting, I'm just good at it. And I want to be able to be a Freddie Roach. I want to be a Custy Amato. I want to be a very legendary coach to where, or my coach, Master Bob, to where, as we know, you and I might be coached differently. You might be a tough love type of guy, and I need to be a little more sensitive, have that positive reinforcement or different types of techniques. I want to be able to have all the accolades in my career to be like, this is my resume. I can teach all of you or most of you or whatever I can do. But for example, my last event in Colombia, I sponsored a kid named Edgar Torres. So I sponsor good people. I don't sponsor good athletes. I sponsor good people, and I see them paying it forward. Whether, like you said, hey, you want to help some KHK members out? Cool, you're paying it forward for free. You're willing to go out of your way. That's what I like to do, and hopefully, it comes back full circle to me later on in life. Awesome. If it doesn't, wasn't what I was looking for, and that's the people I try to help. And so I heard about this kid named Edgar Torres in Peru, a very small village. And when I say village, I mean like he lives in a concrete house, like almost third world country part of Peru, and sponsored for a couple fights, and I was like, here's 200, a fight, and I sponsored for 2 amateur and I think 2 pro, and 200 to him, like he's able to do a lot in Peru. He's like, yeah, I get to go to this camp and that. I was like, awesome, dude, I'm very happy for you because
How did you
200.
know about him?
From a mutual friend. So I went down to Florida, and Florida's a lot of South Americans. And I have a friend named Victor who was just like, hey man, I have this kid. He's super motivated. He's doing this, doing that. And Victor's a good guy. So I was like, you know what? I don't usually go off recommendations like that. I usually kind of see it more firsthand. But I was like, fine, you know what? I'll take the recommendation, go from there. And this kid would hit me up every day. What do you think about this? Coach, what about this? And just ask advice. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a big brother and a father. I don't believe I have any kids right now, but be a big brother. I was like, you know what? Let me help this kid out. And he would listen to everything. I was like, you know what? He's trying. So when I found out I was going to Colombia, I asked Sam, the matchmaker, I was like, hey man, I need him on the card, please. And they're like, okay, well, we need you to do this to have him on the card. I was like, cool. I'll do whatever. I'll pay extra. I'll pay his, fight. I don't care. I'll pay his purse. I don't care. I just want him on the card to have a different opportunity. Instead of him, being the small town fighter that no one really knows or cares about, he goes in this Brazilian promotion or whatever promotion to fight their killer, and he's just being the sheep to the wolves. So I was like, you know what? Let me take care of him. We'll find him a proper fight even. And I believe he fought a guy that was 2-2 around his record. He was Edgar, I believe, was 1-1 or 1-2 at the time. So I was like, how about this? Instead of giving you money for your fight, I'll fly you to Colombia. We'll stay out there for 2 weeks. You'll stay with me in my hotel. I'll help you for your weight cut, do everything. He's a kid. You remember weight cutting. We don't know. No one teaches us unless we hire a nutritionist. So it sucks, especially when you don't know. You do it really bad. Oh, we weigh in Friday. We're going to stop eating and drinking on Monday and start doing stupid stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, you're going to stay with me 2 weeks. Eduardo Moro, another brave bantamweight, lives in Bogota. So he's like, I'll take care of you. I'll cook for you guys. He was on the card too. So all 3 of us became brothers and just hung out. And we trained, climbed the mountain, which really sucked, and did all the things. And he would vent to me everything possible in MMA. I was like, oh, no, I've gone through that. Oh, I've gone through that. So we all make weight. And that night we do I like to take my team out to eat. And there was this fancy Italian place in Bogota, Colombia, super expensive family style dinner, and super expensive there. But to me, I was like, oh, this is great. You're like, yeah, how much? You guys want more? I just kept on like having fun with it. And Edgar's looking at the menu, and he knows the conversion rate of the money. And he's looking up, and he's looking at my cousin. He's just like, I'm like, dude, why are you nervous? He goes, this food is expensive. I was like, no, don't worry. Don't order. I'm going to order a family style. He didn't know what a family style was. Again, very new to him. And so I order all this food. It's filling up the entire table. And where I'm even like, oh, no, we're not going to finish this. This is a lot. Like, we're going to have to take some home. And he's looking at it, and he's like so surprised. And I don't know if you remember, this was, I had the same look when, Sheikh Khalid brought us over for the KHK meeting, and we had the gigantic table. They brought the lamb out. They like fresh lamb, everything of everything. And you're looking at this table like it's a Disney movie of just food, And I'm looking and he's looking, and he's like, I've never seen so much food in my life. And then after I pay the bill, again, I'm happy with the bill because it's in Colombian and pesos. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And in the States, I would have been broke. So I pay for it. And he's just like, oh my gosh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was like, you're fine. Like, you're good. And he goes, I'll pay you back one day. I was like, I just hope you're able to do what I just did in your future. Because I remember Donald Cerrone. So I used to hang out with Donald Cerrone. He took us all out one day. It was like 30 people went out to a bar in the States, and it was just bar and grill. He ordered, I don't know how much, and it ended up being like a $1,500 bill of 30 people. Drinks, food, all that stuff. No hesitation. Oh, I got it. Don't worry, guys. Cerrone, I think at the time had like 11 fights in 1 year. So he was doing well. And I was just like, I remember looking that day. I was like, man, I've never seen so much food in my life. I hope I can do that one day. And then Future comes out. Edgar tells me that. Well, I just did that for him. And I'm just like, I really hope this kid can do that one day.
Yeah.
Then later on that night, or the next day, I cornered him before my fight, which I was super stressed about. I was more stressed about his fight than mine. And he ended up winning the fight, and he's crying and doing this and doing that. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I win. We both celebrate together. And then his mom calls me the next day. And, he makes it back to Peru. His mom's crying. He's like, thank you so much for the opportunity. Like, I appreciate what you're doing for him. Is amazing. I don't care if he makes it in the future, but just like the opportunity that you give him, show that they're like good people in the world. And this, and I was just like, thank you. It's like, it's nothing, so just like those little things make me feel good. But hopefully my biggest role model is Manny Pacquiao. That's why I need to fight in the Philippines again one day. But Manny Pacquiao is my guy because he came from nothing, started this huge career, and all he does is give back to his community. I don't have the following nor the money that he does. But for me, sometimes live like I'm not going to see tomorrow. So I don't mind giving my money back because I know no matter what, I'm going to find a way to be hungry and make my money. And that's just how I am. But I know some people can't do that in certain circumstances. Yeah. But let me give you a little kickstart. Let me give you some little motivation to help you out. And if I can, awesome. If I can't, then I really, really can't. But for Edgar, I was able to. And, again, I'm trying to, pay it full circle.
Oh, crazy, man. It's an interesting story. Listen, I've had multiple podcasts sitting and talking with guys about that fight, which is the one you had in Colombia. I didn't know all this was going.
I was like, I need to grab my coffee for this now.
I know you're going through all of these things while you're in Colombia, so it's crazy. But that fight is one fight that I've
and the cut over my eye 3 weeks before where I couldn't fight, and at the same time, Oliveira, after my fight, Oliveira got cut and didn't fight Makhachev. The same exact cut. And I was like, no, I'm going to take it. And still fought, didn't get cut, and won the fight. But continue. I couldn't train for 3 weeks for that.
Yeah.
I literally was only running. I was like, all right, well, I guess just focus on my weight cut.
Yeah. No, that was crazy. But just getting to the fight itself, tell me about the fight. Like, I've spoken to everyone, and not as Shorty was Nkosi. That was a fight for me. I was saying that this is something that I would like to talk to judges with. I want to talk to referees, officials, like just have a chat about the fight itself, because it was something that you could actually make a study on. Whether it's the technical aspect of it, whether it's individuals and styles, or even how judging and refereeing should be. You tell me from your perspective, it was a split decision. Was it a split decision? Do you feel like that was fair to call it a split decision? Did you watch that fight?
I have not. I have it. I have not rewatched the fight, but that's not because of the split decision. I actually don't like rewatching any of my fights. If I do watch it, it's more than likely showing it to somebody, or like a watch party, or an after watch party, if you want to say victory party, or now my first ever rematch as a professional, where I'm like, okay, well, I have to study this. I mean, it's still fresh in my head. It was 4 months ago. Yeah. But in the fight, I never felt in danger. First round, cool. He cut me. I was like, oh, damn, good shot. And then after that, I was like, okay, cool. Lost first round. Not worried about it. And second round, I knew was close. I got the last minute takedown, but our judge is going to count that. It doesn't really matter, whatever. So second round, I'm like, okay, I can either count it for mine or count it for his. But mentally, I'm just going to say, you know what? It's his. Anytime in practice, if it's close, it's his. That's just automatic. Yeah. But the next 3 rounds, he dies out on me. And now he's grappling with me and just clinching with me on the fence, where I'm looking at the ref kind of like, I know this is where I want to be, but I'm like, you want to just break us up? He's not doing anything. He's maybe landing little pop shots, but I don't believe they were significant enough to count really as points. Cool, maybe a little slaps here and there, good punches here and there, but nothing significant to where I don't believe, and I guess this is a question for you. Was there a point besides me bleeding? Was there a point ever in the fight that you were worried that I was in trouble besides maybe coming to the decision?
Yeah, I think the first round was where I felt like everything that he was throwing, especially the Muay Thai clinch, where he was getting in the clinch. And I kept saying that you figured the Muay Thai clinch. I mean, I'm sure that you knew what to do with the Muay Thai clinch beforehand, but then you countered those Muay Thai clinches in the later stages that he stopped doing, going for the Muay Thai clinch anymore. But
Yeah.
I felt like the Muay Thai clinch was very dangerous in the first round, and that was the time I felt like you were in the biggest danger. In the whole
Because there
fight.
was that to me, I looked at it as there was never, I guess, besides the knee where I was starting to bleed, where again, no one really saw the knee. They're like, oh, hey, you got hit by something, but where's the blood coming from? Because it was ended up nice little scar here.
Oh,
But yeah, this thanks. I
Okay.
always remember that. But for me, third round, fourth round, and fifth round, I always put him in danger. Third round, I put him in, a choke. Fourth round, I think I also put him in a choke. And fifth round, I put him in that arm bar. And the arm bar, I had the arm. There wasn't any worry about it. The only problem is, sadly, again, I'm too damn nice and merciful where I'm just like, dude, tap. And I had to kind of, after the fight, realize, because in the clinch while we were tied up, he was just, holding me on the fence and he's mumbling to himself, like, I'm going to be champion. I'm going to be champion. And I'm like looking at it, I was like, damn, this guy's really serious. But it didn't click to me that, oh, this guy's willing to die to win the fight. Like he was exhausted. And when I tell you I landed knees where you can feel someone's spine when you land, or you ever see those anime strikes where like you hit and you see the punch coming out the back? Like that's how it felt sometimes where I'm like, oh, I have good clinch in the knees, or I'm tossing him on his head, or I'm putting him in chokes and submissions. A lot of it, I think I took it too lightly and too for granted where I'm like, oh, he'll tap out. And then I don't know, or he gets out. I'm like, oh, damn, I should have held it tighter. I should have really put it in there. Oh, how cool. I'm going to tap him out, or with the arm bar. I'm like, come on, tap, tap, tap. Dude, I don't want to break your arm because I know how long injuries take. I mean, I've had my torn MCL and it took me almost a year and a half to get in there. I was like, and then after the fight, I'm like, I should have broke it. Like, you think about it after, you're like, I should have
Yeah.
broke it. But the fact is, I know leading into the next fight, no matter if it is, again, last fight decision, I feel that I could have won all 5 rounds. I feel like no matter what, somebody's always going to have an opposite opinion. Fortunately, it was in my favor. I thought I won 3-2, minimally 3-2. If not worse, it was worse 4-1. But again, all up for speculation. But when it comes to that, I was never in trouble in the fight besides that first round. So if you want to look at it, maybe 3-2, maybe 4-1, but I was fine and I was always comfortable. There was never any stress in my face. I was the one that put him in danger multiple times. He was the one that got flipped upside down multiple times in Shorty Airlines. And after the fight, he's the one gasping for air while I just come up. I'm like, all right, cool, here, let me raise your hand. Like, dude, congrats. It was a good fight in Bogota, which is a 3,200 kilometer high city. Like it's ridiculous. It's 2 mile high city. It was a lot,
Yeah.
but after it was just like, cool, I won. And then it was split. I'm like, okay. But I still wasn't worried about.
Did you have some doubts while you were
Well,
making the decision?
I mean, automatically, once you hear split, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
man, like your heart just
No, I
drops.
mean like after the 5th round, before going in.
I wasn't at all worried about the fight. Every round, because I was able to see my team, I would immediately stand up and be like, yay, nay. And, my manager, Lex, would be like, I'm like, cool, thank you. I need that, because it's not that it's unmotivating. It's like, cool, I'm losing. I need to come back. Or I'm winning. Okay, cool. I don't have to maybe force a situation or force a move. So every round, and I would have all 3 of them, my brother, my cousin, and my manager, like literally like yes or no. So I'm like, 1, 2, okay, cool. And just kind of go from there. So I was never worried about it. And then mentally, I knew what I was doing in the fight to where his little pop shots weren't as significant as my throws or my submission attempts or my time on the ground and ground control. So overall, I knew point-wise of how it was going to be judged, and I ended up being correct.
Spoke about the high elevation Bogota. At the same time, we definitely saw a dip in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. It was going, when Nkosi was
Yeah,
going.
as I started to go up,
Yes.
most of my fights.
And that definitely, we speak about it multiple times. I was sitting with Hamza, I was saying that before your fight, we was talking about it, and we are like, he starts slow. Every fight, Shorty starts slow, he's and maybe he knows that he's starting slow from the previous fights, and this fight with Nkosi is going to be different. But then with Nkosi as well, you started slow and you started peaking up. We will talk about that because I want to know what you go through in your head and what's your strategy when you're getting into the fight. And is that something of a strategy or is it something that you want to understand your fighters? But before we go into that, when we all witnessed a dip in Nkosi in the third and fourth and fifth round, did you feel that he was tired? And did you recognize at that point that while you're fighting that he's exhausted?
I think that was my problem is I knew I had 5 rounds. I had 3 more rounds for sure. And I go, cool, I can push the pace here and there, but I don't need to force it. I felt that he was going to die on me. The problem was he never did. Like I'm telling you, when I landed knees to the body or I landed those big throws, because they're not, you don't just roll and get up. You get thrown, you get slammed. You have somebody else's body fall on top of you. It's, we've been both thrown by Dagestanis. You're like, dude, this sucks. I hope this never happens again. It's the fact of I kept on putting him in different situations where I thought mentally he was going to break on me. He has the mindset of a champion. He's just not a champion, if that makes sense. He's there. He's right at that point. But like I said, his nickname is the future. He's there. He's at that point, but I'm in the way. And sadly, I'm today. The future is another day. So for me, I felt him dying, but his determination is phenomenal. And that's something I have to understand in the next fight of I can't leave it to the judges, not just for myself, but also for him. So he doesn't go home and go, I won that fight. It's like, no, I finished you. And there's no question about it. You messed up. You failed again. And this time it was even worse.
Yeah. There was one thing, definitely, after the fight, it was bombarding. I mean, everybody, the social media was talking about it. We were seeing comments left, right, and center from everywhere. Everybody had their opinions of how the fight went. And then Nkosi comes out and he makes statements, right? And one thing he said was that, people misunderstood. He heard somewhere that they thought he's 170 pounds. And he said, no, I've never been 170 pounds. It's just that he's never been there. He said he's 70 kgs, maybe.
Oh, they probably put the 1 in front of it thinking it was pounds.
Yeah.
I was like, when I heard that, I was like, he was 170? Dude, how?
Yeah, so he was like, it was never that. He was actually 70, but it's just that he was more stronger, and it's not that he was heavier and much heavier than Shorty Torres, and it was just that he was more stronger. And he clearly mentioned that one of the things that he identified was that he said that you were weak. And in the fight, we saw a lot of cage control where he was keeping you on the cage. And definitely you did some really good escapes and flips from there. But when he said you're weak, did you feel that strength of his? And everybody knew that he has that strength with every time he fights, all the opponents, everybody that he trains with. And of course, he trains with Kubanza, who's also a really, really strong guy.
I'm completely scared of that guy.
Yeah.
I'm completely afraid of him. But it's not that he was stronger. It's that he's longer and his levers are phenomenal. Like when you hold somebody in the fence, it's like, you ever see a spider trap its prey? It just kind of lays on it and then the arms go around. That's kind of how I was, where I'm like, well, there's really no point to fight this. Let me just stay on the fence and just relax. Especially if you're not throwing knees, shoulder strikes, elbows, or anything to put me in danger. I'm just going to relax. And I remember looking a few times at the ref going like, we going to move? No? Okay, cool. Now I have to work. And eventually when I felt that it was time, because I can't, as good as I am with judo, I can't just randomly throw somebody. I have to set it up. And I was able to set it up, but it takes time. And sadly, because of how long he is, I can't throw him in certain throws. I have to get the right space, right momentum, all that stuff. And I found the right opportunity. I just took too long to set it up. So I think that's why it kept me on the fence for too long. But it's and especially you've known me for a long time. I go with stronger people all the time. Yeah. I'm not trying to fight. I've gone with Eldar Eldaroff. Like, that's not fun at all. I've never tried to go on a strength contest. So you'll never feel my strength. That's the point of judo. It's called the gentle way. I'm trying to toss you. I'm trying to move you. I'm trying to make this easier for me so I can last 5 rounds. Yeah, no, he was strong, but he was also overexerting himself, and that's why he died out in the 3rd round. And I'm like, cool, now I can start implementing my strength. Now I don't have to be as technical. Now I can do what I want. And that was another thing he failed at. So, yeah, it could be a strength contest, but again, I don't lift weights. I lift people, and I lifted him, I think, 6, 7 times.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was something really, really elegant to watch, I would say, when I was
it's funny because I don't... You ever do something in a fight and kind of forget that you did that in a fight, or you're like, oh, it was cool, right? And then you see, you're like, oh, like, so when I saw the highlights immediately after the fight, I was like, damn, that throw was really, really nice. And then I've been to KHK at the gym this week, and a lot of the fighters like, can you show me this throw? I'm like, I'm gonna try my best, but for some reason, it's just muscle memory, and it's really hard to break down because when I'm in fights, it's just almost like ultra instinct. I just kind of go into it, throw, I feel fine. When I feel the motion, cool. But sometimes in practicing, I'm like, hold on, wait, gotta take. Let me look at let me look at my own film. Okay, I did this, did that. Okay, cool. This is how we have to do it. For me, I'm a natural feeler. So again, if I want to feel your strength, cool. And Kosi gets to show me your strength and all that stuff. But because of your strength, I also get to feel what side your dominant side, what side you're pushing on, what side you're weak on. Okay, cool. I can toss you this way. It's a lot easier.
But do
So
you think that is that also a reason why when you get into the fights, you're that person that goes with the flow? So when you came to fighting Nkosi, did you ever think that there's going to be a lot of judo throws? I'm going to have opportunities for judo throws, or was it like that's the moment he's putting his weight on me? I'm getting that opportunity.
I knew the throws or sweeps were going to be the biggest thing because I did sweep him a couple times. Might have not put him to the ground with the sweeps, but definitely put him off balance multiple times. Got out of the Muay Thai clinch, and then for sure tossed him, 6 times in Short Airlines, which is awesome. I'm pretty sure he's a gold member now, so he's and coming back for the second fight, so maybe he's platinum next. But he gets first class. But the fact is, I don't know, man. It's I don't feel strength against him. I feel fine, comfortably. I like even going into the rematch. I'm like, okay, cool. I know what I needed to do in the first fight. I think I had too much. I think it became too comfortable. I was like, oh wow, I thought he was gonna do this. He didn't. I thought he was gonna keep me at length, and by the time I came in, I think he held me before I grabbed him. If that makes sense. He's like, oh, let me grab him before he grabs me, so I can be in a dominant position. I'm not trying to get him against the fence. As you know me, I don't go for shots. I pretty much like to stand and bang and have a good time. But then you grab me. Okay, cool. It's fair game. I'm gonna throw you. You start to knee me. I'm gonna knee you back. And if I see a throw, then it's it's all by instinct. Sometimes I don't even mean to throw you. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess I'm on the ground. So for me, it's I go with the flow, and also another reason why I start slow. Kind of weird to say this, but my first round is also my warm up. I don't go like in the back. I relax. If you ever see me in the back, it's almost like a party. People are like, dude, hey, you have a fight. You're gonna get ready or anything? I'm just like, yeah, I'm getting there, and I'm just chill, relax. And then when I go in there, I have to take a couple shots to be like, oh yeah, I'm in a fight. I'm
Did you
that.
change that, or do you
Nah,
think that's good
that's
for
that's
you?
just my style. I've had that in wrestling where my coach we would have these bad weight cuts.
Yeah.
And so we would rehydrate, and in the States you only have, if it's a duel, 1 hour to recover. If it's a tournament, 2 hours to recover. So let's say it's a tournament, I have 2 hours to recover. We eat for that 1 hour, hopefully half an hour, let it digest, and then if possible. And then that last half an hour, we just go as hard as we possibly can. Or our coach goes, you're gonna get your first bad one out, and that's what he calls it, which makes sense. Usually, our first bad one is, oh man, I'm at the wrong weight class, and after that, you're like, oh no, I'm good, I'm good. You recover a little bit, you go back to it. For me, I can never do that one bad one. My one bad one had to be in a live experience, and that's my first round. And I always felt smart and competent enough to survive, but then also realistically, and you're a fighter, if I'm not attacking and I'm just defending, what are you gonna do? You're gonna attack. More than likely, if you see someone in a sense defenseless, you're gonna do everything you possibly can. But if I can survive that, one, that's a mental game for you. Damn, I hit him with everything and he's still coming. But then two, I also saw everything the best you possibly could have given me, and your rhythm and what your favorite techniques are. Second, third, fourth round, you're gonna do the same thing, but less, because now you're tired, and now I'm warmed up, and now I'm getting to it. So my fights, the longer the fight goes, the worse it is for you. And Kosi realized that. Blaine O'Driscoll realized that. Amir Albazi realized that. All the guys that I fought, Sean Santella realized that as he died out in the later rounds. That's why I 10-8'd him the last round, because that's how intense I get. I can push in those final minutes.
You're also having a risk with that. I mean, imagine the Nkosi fight with the way the judges saw it. They've given a split decision, which means there are judges who saw it went the other way. What if it was a 3-round fight? You know what I mean? So
If it was a 3-round fight, I have to plan it very differently. I think that was also the pro and con for this fight is 5-round fight. Cool. I have longer time to play, but then I'm also too comfortable and relaxed. So I'm like, I got it. he's gonna die out. I can wait a little bit and then relax too much, and now I'm making it too close or closer than it should be. In a 3-round fight, I have 1 round to give up at most. Then cool, I have to push second and third round, and I have to do everything I can that you do die out, whether it's second round, third round, or even at the end or later part of the first round. And that's what happened with Blaine O'Driscoll. He came out first 2 minutes, guns blazing. I survived, and then now I'm attacking. He's just like, man, this guy doesn't die. I've hit him with everything I have, and he's just coming forward. I might have still lost that first round, but after that, that pace just continues. So for me, it's having to start at the end ish of the first round, and then second and third, I'm there. In 5-round fights, I need to mentally, maybe at most, give up first round, but also mentally realize that it's a 3-round fight. It's a 3-round fight. Just make it a 3-round fight. And then, oh, hey, well, we got 2 more rounds, if it goes that far. But yeah, I'm always comfortable when it comes to the conditioning. The longer the fight, the better for me. I'm just very comfortable and I like to have a lot of fun. And I think I gave him too much of a big brother respect. I'm like, oh, wow, he's a little better than I expected. Oh, wow, he's hitting me here. Cool. Like, I'm having fun and playing the game like we used to do in practice, like tit for tat. I punch, you punch, I punch, you punch. And I think I was too relaxed in that fight. And I gave him a little more respect than I should have, as I'm pretty sure he's been saying that about me. And then I have to do more next fight.
Absolutely, and that's what I was getting to, because he definitely mentioned that a couple of times, that he came into the fight with giving you too much respect, and he just realized that he also mentioned that the good side is he realized that he was saying that you're overrated, and from your end, when you're getting into the fight, now that you fought him, you've seen him, you felt that the fight with Nkosi, he says he was giving you too much respect. What do you think is going to be different in the second fight if he wasn't giving you too much respect? And you too, you mentioned that there was positions where he shouldn't have given that, your mentality was like, finish it off.
Yeah.
And he would tap. And now that you know that this is what's going to come in, and the next fight is going to come more aggressively mentally. And it's not Bogota. I mean,
now we're at sea level.
Yeah, now we're at sea level. So you're looking at 5-round fight. You might not see that exhaustion in the coming rounds, and you're going to see that first round aggression throughout the next 5 rounds. So what do you think in your preparation for this fight? What are the things that you see, or you assume that this might be the unseen things that I should be prepared for?
The hardest thing about this fight is, like, I'm not a fan of, in general, and obviously speaking to everyone, I think fighting a person you've already beat, I'm not motivated to fight him again when I believe I've already beaten him. So am I not taking him seriously? I feel like I definitely should take him seriously because he's always troublesome. But after the first fight, in the fight, no matter what he says after, he never put me in danger. Cool, he cut me, great. But I was never in danger. I was never put into a choke, an arm bar. Yeah, I'd take a couple strikes, but I just walk forward. And I was perfectly fine. There was never a point for me mentally of going, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do that. Whether it was at sea level or however many kilometers high. So for me, I felt very comfortable. And even now going into this fight, I never even had a specific training partner like I did the first camp. If you think about it, and I think I told a few people, this whole year has been the Nkosi year. I was supposed to fight him in March. Then I was supposed to fight him in April. Finally fought him in August. Now I'm fighting him again in December. This whole year has been training for Nkosi. So I don't need to train for him anymore. I was training with Patchy Mix, Manel Cape, Amir Albazi, Alex Perez, the guy who beat me, Cody Garbrandt, helping him for his fight. So many more high-level guys, higher level than I am when it comes to resume, where it's like, cool, I can go back and forth to these champions. Let me work stylistically in different things because I know what Nkosi is going to bring. But what if, I know he's in Bali right now from what people were telling me, what if he somehow miraculously learns a whole different style and he's wrestling in Bali or doing whatever? I highly doubt it, but he comes in doing something different. I already know what he's going to do for the most part, but also in 4 months, what new are you going to bring to the table? After the first round, your fight or flight kicks in. Once that first round's over, you're tired. Now you are starting to breathe. Doesn't matter if you're super conditioned or not. Hey, the first round, this new stuff isn't working, or he's adapted really well, then I got to go back to my normal stuff. Well, your normal stuff didn't work the last fight. So why should I worry? So for me, mentally, I'm very comfortable, which also makes it a little more dangerous for him. but also makes it more entertaining for the fans. Because you know me, I like to take shots. I like to have a little fun and make it, I guess, if you want to say, because the last fight controversial.
Yeah.
And if it ends up being a split decision again in my favor, then 2-0, it is what it is. But I did my job. He failed, and again, he wants to promote a fight and say all the things he can. Perfectly fine with that. Me, as you can see, I don't care. It is what it is. You can say whatever until fight day, and then after, you either shut up or say I told you so.
Yeah. No. And so even the weight cut side, right? I mean, you've been fighting most of your life in flyweight division, and fighting in bantamweight makes you feel better.
A lot better. Like even now, I'm a little heavier, and I think every weight cut has been different for me. And now I'm starting to kind of get acclimated to being a bantamweight, to where I can cut more weight in a shorter period of time, but also feel healthier. Instead of when I was at flyweight, I was trying to get as close as possible, and then I'm drained weeks out. Now I'm tearing ligaments and hurting myself just trying to maintain. Compared to, hey, it's okay, drink a little bit, you can cut a little more weight later. Now at bantamweight, I remember when I fought Israel, I was already on weight 2 days out. And then I'm like, wait, I can drink, you do your own little water load. And I was like, oh, I need to drink more water. Need to drink more water.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I'm already hydrated, or I feel comfortable. The next weight cut, I'm a little heavier. And I was like, okay, in Colombia, I need to figure this out. We didn't have certain things, so it made it a little more difficult. But I ended up making weight. This one, I'm a little heavier, but Bahrain is like my second home. So I know all the things that I have: hot tub, saunas, if I want to go to Spartan, whatever the case may be. So I have all the resources that I need here, so I can be a little heavier and give and take. So when it comes to the weight cut, there is no real weight cut to me. I feel healthy. And I think because of that, I'm also better able to go 5 rounds and have a fun time and even take a better shot.
So, do you think that you'd go back fighting in flyweight again?
Um, that's the hard part. I'm never gonna say no, but as I've gotten older, I've naturally packed on muscle to where I'm just like, eh, I can compete at the bantamweight division. There's no reason for me, unless it's incentivized money wise, to go down. To where I'm like, you know what, this payday is worth whatever pain and sacrifice I have to go through for however many months. But that would, if I were to cut back down the flyweight, I would have to hire a nutritionist again, make sure I have somebody set, because it would have to be very specific. Because it's one of those where I'd have to say goodbye to the outside world for at least 3 months to really keep my mind in check. Because I mean, you already know, we start cutting weight, we go outside and we're like, ooh, Snickers, and then we start, okay, maybe if I have this, I can do a little bit of an extra run, or I can jump rope an extra 10 minutes. You start, manipulating yourself, and it doesn't work that way. And I learned that multiple ways the hard way. So for me, in a sense, I was traumatized. In the beginning of my career, I started at bantamweight for that reason. I couldn't make weight, and I got cut from my wrestling team in college because I couldn't make weight anymore. And my coach and I just didn't like each other. He never let me bump up. So for me, it was like when it came to the Ali Barutina fight, I tore my LCO on my left leg, and I was still gonna try to fight. I'm like, I'll still try to do it. Went to rust off, was still trying to cut weight, and it just didn't work out. My body wasn't gonna do it. So I was like, you know what, man, I'm done hurting myself. Let me bump up and let me hurt people at the heavier weight class.
No, definitely. And so bantamweight, you find it your home at the MMA weight classes. You you mentioned about a few of the fights, and you said that they might be better than me in terms of resume. You are the world champion today of Brave Combat Federation. Of course, there is the saying that you're not a champion until you defend your title. And at the same time, and this is, I think, a very important fight because the talks are there. It was a split decision as it was, and everybody has different opinions on that. And Nkosi says that he's the champion without the title, and you're having the title and you're not the champion. So all the conversations are going on. But at the same time, yes, we also know the basic conversation: you have to defend your title to be the champion. I'm not taking things forward, like going ahead of the fight. I know that you're focused on the fight that's coming up, but at the same time, just do you think that if there was an opportunity to build that resume, I mean, you fought in Brave with Amel Abazi, who's ranked top 3 or top 4 in the UFC as well, and you've showcased a performance that puts you right up there in the title contention for Brave. Do you think that if you want to make sure that you're leaving a legacy behind, is that going to be something where you want to be the best bantamweight in the world, Brave Combat Federation? Are you looking at 2-division champion? And if that is, we know that flyweight is not the most fun thing. Would there ever be a time, would you say that I want to go featherweight?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm very hard headed, as you already know. When I was in Titan FC, Lex being my friend at the time, my boss. I was already a two belt champion at the time. I'm trying to make it to the UFC, and I'm like, what else do I need to do to prove to the UFC that I'm ready, not just for flyweight but both bantamweight? And at the time, Connor just became double belt champ. Now it's becoming a trend. I just did it right after. I'm like, hey, or I did it right before he did it. And so I'm like, cool, I'm a double belt champ. He did it for, I believe it was a Cage Warriors and then the UFC, stuff like that. There was a Frenchman that did it for Bama. So I was like, cool, this is becoming a trend. But the UFC didn't want me. And it was because I was a flyweight. You look at it later, oh, they were planning on cutting the division or at least start to release people. I didn't know that. For me, I was like, oh, Lex, I'll bump up to featherweight. I'll fight the champ. I don't care. Like, I can't remember his name, but I was like, I'll bump up and fight him. And I remember he's like, I'll ask him, but it's the dumbest thing if he says yes. I'm like, why? I'm a double belt champion. So like if he beats me, he beat a double belt champ. He goes, yeah, he beats a double belt champ that's 2 weight classes below him. So it doesn't make him look good. And at the time, I believe I was 7-0. And I believe he was like 13 and whatever. So it's like resume wise, it doesn't help him. So you beat a guy who had less fights than you. And yeah, he had belts, but he was at the smaller weight class. So he's smaller too. There's no win for him. So eventually he said no respectfully, but I was like, damn it. Like I just want to fight. I want entertaining fights and I want to be able to, and it's not, I'm not trying to put an excuse to my fight because I had to really figure that out. The one that I did lose against Alex Perez. And we actually talked about it in depth too, him and I, where it was like, we've had bad weight cuts where mentally we break. And that was that one fight that I was going through a lot. I was going through, my father was slowly getting skinnier and I was like, are you okay? Again, I do believe he had cancer before he passed away. I had my engagement that was slowly, eventually, we broke up. It was, going really bad. And I brought pretty much my home stuff to business, which you don't do. And then the UFC was already kind of treating me bad, from the outside perspective. So I'm just like, man, I'm kind of going through a lot. Plus, I'm having such a bad weight cut. I was on a 33 fight winning streak, and by the time I got there, fighting at the Staples Center, I was like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't care what happens, whatever. I remember Lex coming to me right after. He goes, "So, buddy, what happened?" I was like, I don't know. I just didn't want to be in there. Like, that's how my persona was. Like, it wasn't the shots. It was just like I just wanted. I don't care. So I would never say that. Like that day, Alex Perez 100% better than me, but mentally it was like I don't want another weight cut or my mental fortitude to go that low to where I can't perform. Me going at bantamweight or any other heavier division, cool. I feel happy. I'm having fun. I get to enjoy this. So if I lose to you, dude, congrats. You were the better man because I tried my best. There's nothing more I could have done that day, from what I can think of. So cool. But if I lose at my worst, and that was at the flyweight division, I would always in my head create some type of excuse. I wasn't feeling well. I was fighting through injury, this, that, bantamweight division. I've had my multiple injuries, but I'm like, I'll fight. It's part of the sport. I'm fine, and I feel happy and energetic, and makes me motivated to do the sport. And as you remember, this sport is tough. You're taking all these beatings for little money or this, whatever the case may be, and when you're trying to move up, and now you're cutting weight and then that really manipulates your mind very negatively. And you're like, why am I doing this? I can't even live a happy life. I can't go out and enjoy time with friends and this and that. So for me, if I ever go back down the flyweight, it has to be like completely incentivized from like, oh yeah, no, I'll do that. And it was like, because it might be an opportunity that changes my life. But eventually, whether it's bumping up or bumping down, I do want to be a double belt champ for Brave. Every promotion I fight for, I want to be a double belt champ. I did it, technically twice for IMUF, even though it was at the same weight class. 2 times or 2 division for Titan FC, multiple time defending. I went up and down, defended both, and I want to be able to do that for Brave if possible. But first, I have to. Also, is it technically a true champion if I defend the belt against the same guy I won it from? Because like it was a vacant belt, and I have to defend the belt to be a true champion. But I'm beating the guy, or hopefully, inshallah, that I beat the guy who I won it from in the first place. So is that technically defending the belt? Question mark?
Yeah, I mean, it is defending the belt for sure, right? You're defending the belt. You are the champion today and you are defending the belt. But yeah, true. I mean, that's the funny thing about the bantamweight division, right? We were talking about it. You mentioned that your whole year has been Nkosi year. 2023 has been Nkosi year. And I've been saying the same thing, that the whole bantamweight division has been about Shorty and Nkosi this whole year, because you've got for whatever the reason, and it's just not because you guys are fighting with each other. It's also because of others having their injuries and their things. But that division is ready to explode and waiting to see you guys finish this.
Why is everyone so tall? Dude, it's dumb. Everyone is so tall. What was the event? It was Serbia or was it a Serbian that won? It was a super tall guy. I can't remember his name.
Borislav?
Yeah, he won by the knockout.
Yes.
He's 6 feet tall as well, just like Nkosi. You have Nkosi. Then, when I bumped up, I fought Israel. He's also 6 feet tall. Came down from lightweight. And you're just like, dude, like, this is why? Why do I gotta fight the tallest guys? Like, I love Eduardo Mora and like Hamza, but let me fight them. Let me fight people their height, please, because this is a lot.
No, absolutely, but that's right. I mean, you're looking at Hamza Kohiji. He is the number one contender at bantamweight division. But the whole bantamweight division, I'm looking at the top 5 guys, and maybe at least 3 of those guys are in line to fight for the title. You have the Nkosi fight. Once that fight is over, let's say you defend the title against Nkosi, and then you have Gamzat, Hamza, both the guys who both of their last fights have been title fights, and they're ready to get back in 2024, and that's on the line. But you mentioned Borislav as well in Serbia. He's coming back and putting on a show in his last fight, and he's already sitting and training with the mentality that if something goes wrong in this fight, the title fight, somebody pulls out, something goes wrong, he's ready to jump in,
Yeah.
So he's waiting on the line as well. Izzeddin, his last loss was against you. He's fighting on the same card, I believe.
Yeah.
He's fighting on the same card as well. So you have the bantamweight division that's there, and at the same time, you're seeing someone similar to you who moved from flyweight to bantamweight division. Wali Murad has moved to bantamweight division and put on a show. So you have all these guys waiting because Wali Murad was supposed to schedule to
fight
fight
for
for the flyweight title. And now he's moved to bantamweight. There's no question that he could be in line after another win. When you're looking at the division, there's so many things going on there. One is all these guys, anyone could fight for the title. That's one. Who do you think deserves the title shot if next? 2 is there are still some things where you have relationship with some of the guys. The likes of Hamza, for example, you've trained with him, you know the guy. How do you look at that bantamweight division, and who do you want to fight next, and who do you think deserves to fight next, and which are the fights that maybe he deserves it, but I would rather have, my personal emotions is I want to fight somebody else because I don't know if this will come in the way. Do you have that kind of mentality?
So for me, like I always say, I'm a businessman. You tell me to fight somebody, I just fight. I don't care. Because naturally, I mentally believe I am the best in the world. And I have to prove it against my entire division. Max Holloway, when he did it, in the featherweight division, he's like, I'll fight everyone until you give me a title shot. Then now I have the belt. It doesn't matter because I beat everyone anyways. I've always been champion. But also, I do want to just side note, say the shorties have reigned king at the bantamweight division. Stephen Lohman, Bracketona, and myself, all of us being around the same height. So just want to say that. So shout out shorties. But for me, I think stylistically, it would make sense to have. So let's say everything goes in my favor. We have Nkosi versus Izzeddin. I think would just be a fun matchup. You have the long guy versus the tall, long striker versus the power striker. That would just be fun to see because no one's gonna go to the ground. They want to keep it to the feet. Then you have maybe the Serbian versus who was the last guy who lost to Bracketona? Gamzat. Maybe against him. Just because you have the wrestler striker, that's always a fun matchup. And I doubt Hamza would fight Gamzat. And then you have Hamza fighting whoever's next available, whether it was the African that lost to Vali Morad or fighting Vali Morad.
I think Wende is also fighting in this card, on the 8th card, if I'm not mistaken.
So then you have this intertwined mixed table of whoever wins these matchups, which is that next one going up. Given we're all teammates, Gamzat, Hamza, and I. But business is business. For me, I don't take it personal. If I beat you, I'll buy you some food after.
But you held back for an armbar for Nkosi. I don't know how you would not hold back for a teammate.
For me, I just fight. That's just me, man. I don't care if I don't take anything personal. I'm a very relaxed guy. As you know me, I have a lot of fun. It is what it is. You can talk smack about me, you can say whatever. It doesn't offend me. It doesn't bother me because no matter what, I'm gonna have to fight you anyways. It's just I wouldn't even say it adds fuel to my fire. It's just if you talk smack and you lose, which more than likely you will because of my resume, because what I'm capable of doing, then you just look dumb. So what's the point for me talking smack? I don't want to look dumb just in case. So I'm just gonna keep on doing what I do and keep a straight face, have fun, keep smiling and go on in there. So if I fight Hamza, Gamzat, whoever next, I'll fight whoever. So I was supposed to fight Valley Morad. That would just be a fun fight in general. Just because stylistically we're very similar. We're striker wrestlers, and striker, I won't even say striker. I think I'm more of the Mexican style striker where he's more of, the Russian Dagestani. I want to push the pace to use my wrestling and, lay on top and do this and do that. For me, I have good scramble defense. Can he keep me down? Can he hold me down? And that's actually just a fun test that I would personally like to see. And he's just a person who's been so close multiple times. He had the opportunity for the title the first time against Marcel Dur, didn't make weight, but won the fight. Was gonna fight Ali Bagotinov. Stuff happened with Ali, so Valamora's like, I need to fight. I'm gonna bump up, and he ended up fighting a very tall guy, very strong, powerful guy his last fight, and pushed through to where he's like bending over, gasping for air. I believe he had one fight planned that he was gonna fight at featherweight. Like this guy just wants to fight, so I believe for him, he's probably the most deserving because he's been at there twice, won it technically once, and then kind of got pulled the opportunity without him having to do anything. It was just unforeseen circumstances, which the world sadly plays. So for him, I think he makes sense. Plus, we did talk about it where I was supposed to fight Nkosi. He was fighting the other African guy, and then whoever won was going to be that title fight. And then I ended up winning split decision, controversial. I'm fighting him again. Maybe I think if Valley Morad wins or whatever, if he has a fight lined up, he comes back and fights me next. I think that's probably the smartest and most deserving fight.
No, definitely. Yeah, that would be a very interesting fight to watch as well. I think.
And plus, we're two small guys that have bumped up, and just stylistically, it's you know how they say when you got two jiu-jitsu practitioners going at it, they don't want to do jiu-jitsu, so they just stand up and box. So it's where's this fight gonna go? I'm a person who likes to stand and bang, but I also have really good takedown defense. He's a person that doesn't mind standing and banging too. He has an ego, but he has really good takedowns. So it's where's this fight gonna go? And that's something I'm just having fun and interested in as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And if you had to, just personally, I always want to know that because I always say that you're one of those fighters that's out there, that's striking. When it's standing, you're standing. Let's see where the fight goes. If you want to come and grab me and get hold of me and want to do something, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to deal with whatever the situation is. And I understand all the situations really well. I've learned them. I've understood them. I've learned the science behind them. So when we're talking about Shorty as a fighter, what would you say? I mean, we know that we come from those, we've been trained and lived and, a lot of guys that was our seniors in the fight business were always guys that came from some background. They didn't have the amateur
Resume, yeah.
amateur resume, the opportunity to go into competition at that young age, into the MMA world, into the cage. So we learn from people who had some base at some stage, And today we're looking at a lot of guys that come to the amateur circuit, and now we have the juniors, we have even the youth. So you're training MMA from that very young age. So once upon a time, I always say the evolution of mixed martial arts. So when 1993 we had jiu-jitsu come in, nobody knew what it was, and they started grappling guys with the jiu-jitsu gi and just choking heavy guys, and we're like, okay, we need to know what the ground game is. And then wrestlers come in, and they're like, yeah, but you guys don't know submission. You'll take me down, and I'm going to choke you out. And they're like, no, I'm going to learn your submissions. I'm going to understand your submissions, and I'm still going to keep you on the floor, And then that evolution started coming in until recently that we're seeing that wrestlers who know the grappling, they've dominated, and the strikers came in who train Muay Thai with Western boxing. And we're seeing this evolution, the striking wall and the grappling wall and the mixtures like GSP. And eventually we start seeing those Dagestani wrestling, and which I believe is the closest to mixed martial art, not the Dagestani wrestling, but Sambo.
Sambo.
Like, give more credit to Sambo because you're training and competing at that young age from a very early stage to learn all the aspects, to mix them together at that very young age, which a lot of people don't get that opportunity. But today,
and weight cutting too.
And weight cutting too. And today you have the opportunity to do that with purely MMA. So you get to be in the cage. You don't have to be wearing shorts and a gi. You're doing everything what is based on your specific sport, and you're growing from that place. So you're becoming a complete fighter. do you today look at yourself and, when you think of your Shorty as a fighter, as a champion today, you still feel like, I would still say that my background is wrestling?
I well see that's the crazy thing. When I was an amateur, I had 26 fights. I lost my first one, and I lost my first one to a wrestler because I was a Muay Thai fighter. I just won 2 Muay Thai belts, and he went in for a shot, takes me down. I remember looking at the ref like, "Hey, he's not supposed to." Oh yeah, it's MMA, because I forgot. I'm so used to standing on my feet that I had to slowly adapt to more of a wrestling style that I'm choking people out or keeping them down, and doing the GSP and just beating the heck out of them on the floor. And then when I got to Worlds, styles had to change because you never knew who you were fighting next until the day came. You're like, oh, I'm fighting this Brit, or I'm fighting the Kazakhstani, or I'm fighting, whomever. Like my last fight, the other guy was also a judoka. So we didn't clinch at all. We just boxed. And then when I found out he didn't know anything about Muay Thai, like you can kind of feel somebody. You're like, oh yeah, you don't know about this? This is great. I'm a natural feeler. So I started kneeing him. I was like, oh, he does not know how to like defend knees. And then the choke came in right there because it's like you mentally give up. You're just so beat up. You're like, I don't finish it, please finish it. And I was able to put him to sleep. So it just depends on the style you give me. And again, I think too much of a fan entertainer where I'm just like, oh, let's have a little fun. He wants to box a little bit. Blaine O'Driscoll is probably a prime example.
Yeah.
Could I have wrestled, taken down, and submitted Blaine O'Driscoll? Probably. Probably could have done it in the first round and made it a wrestling match and then jiu-jitsu on the ground. But he did an interview before the fight to get in my head, which technically it worked. He was just like, oh, I bet he's going to shoot on me because he's a wrestler and he's afraid of my hands. So I was like, okay, I'll bet. I'll take that game. And so that first round, he's, throwing strikes. They think he's going to knock me out. I'm just like, all right, cool. Yeah, I took a couple hits and then I came, come on back. And then I drop him on his butt. The second round, he shoots. After that, I'm like, oh, fair game. Cool. And then at the end of the second round, I'm shooting, I'm slamming, I'm taking him down. And the whole third round ended up looking like a Khabib style wrestling match where I'm just like lifting, slamming, and putting him in different submissions because now it's MMA. Now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I won the bet. It was over. And we actually, I'm a jerk. We went to the back of the tent and he had a couple calf kicks on me. And so I was like, oh, can we just check my foot? My foot hurts and my calf hurts. And I think I broke his nose. If not, I gave him a nice cut here. And so there's a little divider. We're in the tent. I'm on this side. He's on that side. And I'm walking in. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, Blaine? And, he lifts up the little fingers like, oh, what's up, mate? And so I lay down. And I was like, hey, Blaine. He's like, what? I was like, I just want to say, you shot first. And he's like, oh, shut up. I was just like, because I like to have that game. So for me, fighting is just fun. It's a game. So I go wherever the fight, takes it. I try not to force anything. That's also the combat doorway, art of combat. I have a game plan, but sadly, game plans don't usually work out. As we've been in practice where it's like, oh, I'm not going to let this Dagestani guy take me down. Right. And then you're on the ground. You're like, Khabib, get off of me. So for me, I go with the flow. I go wherever the fight takes it, but I try to keep the goals in my head of what I need to accomplish and try to hit those goals while mixing everything into it. So I try not my best to go, oh, I'm going to keep this on the feet and then I get taken down. Now my whole game plan's thrown out the window. No, I'm going to go with the flow. I know I'm good enough to compete both on the feet and on the ground or everywhere in between. And then I'm going to try to hit my goals. So I can't say I'm a wrestler, but I also can't say I'm a striker, but I can't say I'm a judoka or who. I believe I'm one of the first generations of a full MMA fighter. And then Mokaev is the 2.0 of me because he was able to repeat what I did and further past me. Eventually, there's going to be a Mokaev or a Shorty Torres 3.0 where he's a past Mokaev and he's younger. Like you said, we have the youth, we have, the juniors and all that. So it's going to get better and better. And I think I was a start of that, especially being the first ever 2-time world champ.
No, definitely. And that shows in the way you fight as well. I know it's the question that we always ask, and I'm sure that in the next 2 weeks, you're gonna get asked this 1,000 more times. But we have to go with it because me as a promoter and working as a president of Brave Combat Federation, I know eventually, like I'm already planning for 2024, right? And when we were sitting, we're like, if this fight goes, how it goes, let's say that Nkosi beats Shorty by a decision. Oh man, we gotta get back into the room. You gotta sit down and think about it. Is there gonna be a third match? Is there gonna be a trilogy for this? Because it is a decision again, whatever it might be, and then we gotta look into it and see how was the decision. Was it a clean or not clean? There's gonna be a third match. it has to be a finish to end the story. We had comments from everywhere after the first fight where they are, after a month or two, people didn't forget. They were bombarding us saying that when are they announcing the rematch? What's going on?
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, you know what? Let's close this chapter in 2023. But yes, like I said, but if it goes uh, just one scenario where he beats you on a decision, there might be a trilogy, and that's something we have to go back. But uh, finishing the fight is in both of your minds. My question, your prediction, you're confident you're going to win. And this question is going to be asked multiple times, I'm sure, and it's the most cliche question. But yeah, your prediction, and let's say whether it's your prediction or whether it's how do you want it to end.
Second round, I'm putting him to sleep. The reason why I say that is because I know he's gonna be more active in this fight. I don't think he's the one big thing about Bali is just like Thailand. It's very Muay Thai. So I know the biggest thing he's gonna work is not his stand up, but his clinch. Because he knows no matter what he does on the feet, eventually we're in the cage. Eventually we're gonna tie up. Even if he doesn't want to, he's gonna grab me first. And he's gonna be working on his elbows and his knees. I already know what he does in the clinch. I know, as you saw in the fight after the first one, I'm like, all right, I need to get out of this. I need to counter this because if not, he's very tall, knees go up there very fast. That's where my throws or my sweeps come into play, or even my own Muay Thai clinch back. But it's going to end up on the ground. But it depends on the position that he lands in. For me, in the fight, I thought he was going to lay there, but he was very squirmy, very lengthy, and it made it a little more difficult. But I know that now. And being able to maintain the position in the third, fourth, and fifth round, it's like, okay, cool. Now I have a sixth round with you. I already know what to do. I just have to get you there. And especially to get you tired. So now you start laying down and start relaxing a little more or panicking. I'm going to put you in submissions. And for me, not just for Brave, but also for him, I need to put this whole thing to sleep. And that's with him being asleep in the second round.
That's scary. Tell me about your camp. I mean, I'm not going to
I was
take
like, you like how calm I say that? It's like, yeah, I'm putting
Yeah,
this sleep in the second round.
purposely.
What's the next question? It's like but the camp though, the
Yeah.
camp has been phenomenal. 6 weeks in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture. I mean, the gym's done phenomenal things with Sean Strickland winning the belt. You have Francis Ngannou winning a crazy, or not winning, but having a crazy match against Tyson Fury. You have Patchy Mix, becoming the Bellator world champion. And you have all these guys that I've been able to train with. Manel Cape finally getting back inside the cage, training with former champion Cody Garbrandt. It's been a lot of fun. And then also being able to relax a little more. Again, being at Bantamweight division, I get to have fun. I get to enjoy myself. Get to go out and eat a little bit instead of being super, super strict and going, I don't want to go out because I'm going to see some bad stuff and want to do all the stuff. For me, I was able to, I always say, if there's a happy shorty going in there, there's going to be a fun fight. If I go in there serious, then it's just not me. And there was only 2 fights in my life I've ever gone serious, and those are the 2 fights I lost. One as a pro and one as an amateur. So for me, if I go in there smiling, having fun, dancing or whatever, I'm relaxed. I'm going in there and I'm trying my best. If I lose, hey, you were the better man. So the camp has been fun, and even while being out here, another thing, Bahrain is my second home. KHK is my, my other team over here around the world. So when I come here, people are trying to help me out. I'm trying to help other people out. I'm having fun. I have friends here. I get to go out. I get to do different things, and I know tomorrow is our rest day, and then Saturday we get back to it. Then I have 12 days to 100% stay serious, start the weight cut, and start getting down. And then 5 days out, that's when the official, water load and weight cut begins. So the camp's been well. The fight, I'm not nervous about. Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. We'll find out fight day. But when it comes to me, I'm excited to give myself an early Christmas present back in the States. And then also get this whole Nkosi thing, out of my head. He's in my head more than my past relationship. It's like, you want this out. This is trauma right now. And like he's like a past girlfriend. He's off and on, off and on, off and on. Now I win, I do this, I do the right thing, and then I'm getting nagged at. I was like, dude, what did I do? Why is it my fault? So it's like it's clearly yours. Anyways, past traumas. But now I'm just having too much fun here. But the fact is, I wanted Nkosi's 2023.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just do it for myself, but also promotion where we can move on past this.
Right.
And then also for me, start building my resume where I'm fighting guys that are obviously dangerous, big records and this and that. And now it makes it more entertaining, not just for Brave, but for the fans. I'm not saying that my fan base is a little different. And Kosi's like, we want you to fight him again. This time you kill him, do this. My fan base is like, you're fighting him again? all right, man, you just do the same thing, beat him up, and then go to the next guy. And that's my mindset: is go in there, beat him up, go on to the next guy. And but my focus is this is right now, and then I'll focus on what's next after that.
Compared to your previous preparation to now, do you feel like you're walking in much more prepared?
Well, I'm definitely much more prepared because I've been training for him for March, April, and August. But and then also having fought him, knowing a little more, so I can be like, okay, this wasn't as tough as I thought, or cool, this was a little stronger than what I originally perceived. But for me, no, I don't know. I feel very relaxed, very comfortable, and the more mad he gets, the more different he's gonna be in his fight, and he's not gonna fight as himself. So I do believe it's gonna make it worse for himself. I believe he's again, like I have no disrespect towards him. I believe he's a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal person. And he's just a person that's very happy and giddy like me. He likes to have fun fights. He's not having a fun fight with this because he has all that negativity in his head of this happened, that happened, this happened. But then what if it starts to happen again in the fight? It's a repeat. And then he's going to possibly mentally break down again. Yes, he's mentally strong. He might not tap, but we all have our triggers. And I believe I'm going to be his trigger in that fight. And I think he's going to come out actually worse than what he did in the first fight.
Before I end this, I got to ask, is there any story behind the hair colors?
Two things. So my father's gang colors were purple and black.
Okay.
And so my father passed away. It's not representing the gang, it's representing the color that reminds me of my father the most. If I were going to represent my mother in, a fight, it would be red hair, or something. So I remember there was one fight where my father passed away. I fought Sean Santella. I came out with white and purple shorts. I painted my nails, like I had fun with it. I had purple and black nails, more as an homage to my father. So when people were saying, oh, you're representing a gang, I guess technically, if you want to say that, but this is what reminds me of my father because that was my childhood. Again, that small bubble of what I knew. And then second was, I guess Nkosi is a nice inspiration because he always dyes his hair. So I'm like, or bleaches it. So I'm like, I'll have some fun with it. But I follow Dragon Ball Z a lot. Yeah. And love Goku, love Gohan. But one of my best friends, he's Vegeta. I'm always Team Gohan or Goku. And he's like, hey, man, you should let your ego come out to play. Well, in the manga or the magazine in Japan, that hasn't been released in anime form yet, Vegeta gets a new form to counter Ultra Instinct, which is called Ultra Ego. So he lets his ego come out to play. He has to take, the more damage he takes, the stronger he gets, which is also kind of funny and ironic that the more damage I take in the first round, the more I want to come back and retaliate, and the stronger I get. So for me, I was like, you know what? Purple hair, father, Ultra Ego Vegeta. It's a nice little personification. Let's have some fun with it. And, just go in there looking different. Plus, I'm a small guy. So anytime I go into a room, automatically you notice me.
Definitely, it does look good. Amazing,
especially in Bahrain. Yeah. Everyone's just like, staring at me different. It was like, what? I'm American.
Shorty, pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure.
And all the best for your fight. I look forward to it.
I appreciate it. I can't wait. Hopefully, we keep it and still.
Yeah.